What up? Welcome to Homegrown Hustle, where local brilliance takes the center stage. I'm your host, Matt Eickman. Together, we're about to embark on an inspiring journey. Our community thrives on the wisdom of insightful leaders that are right here in our backyard. And we're bringing their expertise to your ears. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your guide. Join us every week in celebrating innovation, guidance, and the power to inspire greatness. Let's explore the stories that shape our local business landscape, and together, let's ignite the spark of excellence. What's up, hustlers? I am here with the man that literally defined hustle for me, and I can still hear it echoing in the back of my mind from baseball and basketball practices. So, Dad, I'm so happy you're playing along and actually said you'd come here because I know how much I've learned from you, and I know that there's a lot of things that hopefully we can get through today that other people can learn from and move the needle for them as people, but also in their business. So, Dad, Scott Eickman, father, padre. Got any other words for Dad? Baba, that's in Chinese, Mandarin. Why don't you tell all the listeners who you are and what you currently do
as a profession,
as a profession in the business as well.
Because I don't identify with my work and my career. I identify as I'm a father of 6, grandfather of 5, soon to be 6. Been married for 37 years to the same woman. My goals in life was never to be a ladder climber and to be something of the corporate thing. My goals in life was to be a great husband, great father, great brother, great grandfather. I wanted to be all of those things. That to me was what was tangible and realistic in life. And all the work stuff that I've done has been a means to that end. That's it. So professionally, I work for a company in Bloomington, Thermo King Corporation. It's Train Technologies, its parent company. I am the aftermarket materials leader, a distribution center that supports all of our refrigeration units across the world, primarily, mostly in North America, but we have Latin America, Canada, and other dealers that we go to market with, and my team does all the inventory planning, management, forecasting, and so forth. So that's really short nutshell. How
did you start working there? Because I know you didn't start in that role.
It's a long story.
Oh, well, let's.
You go from being.
You showed up.
You go from. Well, at the time we had the 3 of you, just you and Andy and Philip, the 3 boys, and I was in sales and failing miserably. I was out of that, and I finally decided that was not going to work. That was a 6-month experiment that failed. Saw an ad in the paper, answered the ad, had just walked through the door, the phone rang, my manager at the time called me up, or actually a human resources person called me up. The reason being is at the time we were living 2 blocks from where that place was, and they recognized that, and I had all the things that they needed as far as qualification goes for the current role that I was interviewing for. And phone was ringing as I walked through the door. And I learned later on that the hiring manager was thumbing through resumes. Of course, this was 1993, before a lot of the electronic stuff was done. We never had laptops or computers and stuff per se when we started, right? It was all mainframe stuff. But anyway, he's thumbing through the resumes. My resume comes up, and he goes, "This dude is like 2 blocks away. Call him right now. If he's home, bring him in here. If not, forget it." Phone was ringing. I was walking through the door.
Really? I've never heard this story.
Picked up the phone. It was HR. "Yep, we just got your resume. We'd like you to come in for an interview today. Can you make it?" I was in there, and I walked out, and I knew I had the job. Just because I knew I had the job. I had everything he was asking for. So that's how I started. I started basically as a shipping administrator. I'm in the factory. We were making units at the time, and I did that for about 2.5 years. Moved over to the distribution center as a second shift supervisor. So I went to second shift when you guys were little. In the meantime, your brother Stephen came along, and so we had 4 children, and I was in the second shift role for, I don't really remember how long it was. It might have been 3.5 years, 3 years, something like that. And then I went to first shift from there, doing the same thing, but running first shift essentially as a supervisor. And then from there, I went to customer service. I was a lead at customer service for a period of time, and then now to my current role, which I've been in for, I don't even remember.
So you said you didn't want to climb the ladder, but here you are.
But that wasn't necessarily climbing the ladder. Climbing the ladder in a corporate setting is usually an 18-month to 2-year step. You start here, and then every 18 months you're trying to constantly. And climbing the ladder, to me, I always look at it differently. And there's a different philosophy behind doing all of that, where the job is the most important thing. Again, I go back to why I do what I do. You know, I don't identify with my title and my job. I identify as who I am as a person and a father and a husband, that type of thing. So,
did you learn that somewhere, or is that something you like?
Learn what? That type of philosophy?
Like how? Yeah.
From my dad, your grandpa. You know, the things that, you and I spoke a little bit earlier today on it, were always just a means to an end. You could see it in how he operated and how he functioned. He had a phrase that because he lived up in the Chisago Lakes area, and he was a project superintendent, and he would have to drive long ways. He would drive from there to, say, Chanhassen, or he would go to, Prior Lake, or he would go all over the place. And people are like, well, you have to travel all over the place. Why do you live so far? And his principle was, I want to live where I play and not where I work. So that message is that work was a means to an end, and where he lived was more important than, where he worked, and being close to that. So, it's just family and his understanding of people and leadership, and, I was able to glean quite a bit from him in a very short period of time that it's like I said earlier, you don't really realize you don't know anything until you get to be about 31. You realize you think you know everything until then, and then you realize, I don't really know anything. I better check with somebody first to make sure this is the right step. Whether it's a coach, whether it's your dad, whether it's, somebody who you rely on, and it's revelation when you hit to that point. Because when you're young now, you have all kinds of energy, lots of dreams, all kinds of things, and you want it now, and you can get over your skis and make a bunch of mistakes, but it's until you realize, I'm not going to do all that until I check here. Just to check. I want to check. I could be right, could be wrong, but I think I'm right, but I want to double check. And then that, that's part of the growing and getting smarter. And, because the things you're doing now in business compared to where you were 8 years ago, night and day.
Yeah.
Mouse, crazy. I'm thinking of Mouse Mix or whatever that was.
Man. that one didn't hit. That was one of the ideas that didn't hit.
All of the various things that you tried and attempted, but you got out there and you were trying it, and you were, I'm going to make this work, and then you did your best at it, and it wasn't necessarily duplicatable or whatever. So what you've learned through all of that is built up to who you are now, and so that's kind of where I'm at now. So, work is work.
It doesn't have to be your life. And I know I know that I've kind of fallen into that trap, whether it be like with sports, like when I blew my arm out, like I went through some shit, because I was hanging my hat on that. So, and I remember talking with you about that through that whole process. Because really, man, you're the best freaking dad, for real. Also, fun fact, there is a doppelganger that isn't really a doppelganger. You have an identical twin.
I do.
And it's creepy.
It's my best friend too, yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Second fun fact of the day about my dad, there's going to be some more. I'm pretty sure you did. You worked on Paisley Park during the...
I did not.
No?
Nope.
So you weren't there?
I've been there. I got a tour when it was still in construction.
Because Grandpa...
Yeah.
What was it like?
What was what? Paisley Park like?
Yeah.
It was like a big, huge production studio / really, really nice. I mean, it was under construction at the time, right? So it wasn't completely finished. So, but it was... it was what you would expect a world-class entertainer like Prince to have to be successful at what he does. It had the sound stage. It had the cool things were down in the basement.
Grandpa made sure that all that happened.
Well, to him, he really enjoyed that process of working with Prince as an owner. And he wasn't enamored by Prince as the star that he was, because he wasn't, he was Hank Williams Jr. and, all the old country stuff, but he wasn't enamored by any of that. To him, he really liked Prince because Prince was a great owner. All the bills got paid on time. Never had to fuss about getting paid, and the project went well and on time because Prince carried a lot of weight. For example, he'd be able to make things change even though things may be not in the design, and he'd make them change because that's what he wanted. And the basement was kind of cool because it had this gigantic parking garage, and down inside this area was all the stuff from the movie Purple Rain. The motorcycle and all the stuff was down there. So we got to see all that. That was kind of neat. Got a penthouse on it, and it's a very interesting building, very unique in many ways. Again, it was a lot of years.
But that's become like a thing that people come to Minnesota to, like, it's iconic in the Southwest metro area. So, like, for me, every time I drive past it, I see the purple, which is on brand for me. So that's like even better. But also, I'm like, my grandpa like made sure that this happened. And I know it was the 10-year anniversary where he passed just a couple days ago.
Yeah, Monday.
So that's like, I don't know. It's cool. Anyway, so leadership. Let's get to that. So you've been my baseball coach, like my mentor. Like, I've had you tell me maybe a billion times that you know me better than I know me.
Up until the point where you reach that stage where you realize you don't know anything, because at that point you become a person that is the man that I'd always hoped and dreamed that you'd become, because now it's like, it's not about you anymore, right? It's about others. And so, I definitely know your quirks and your tell. And
so a lot of people talk about your ability to work with people, and like you really endear yourself to people in such a strong way that like there's like a lot of trust that's there. And I know that there's intent behind that because you coached us on like how to be a decent human being our whole lives. But when you think about like going into a group of people and you're the leader, whether you're coming into a new role or you're building it, like how do you think about that, and how would you recommend?
Well, it depends on what your targets are, right? What you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. You try to stay on task. I'm a very direct person.
I love it.
I'm not here to try to make you feel good. I'm not going to pat you on the tummy if you're not doing well. I remember going back to your days as an athlete, and you pitched. And we've talked about this recently, too, where you had 12 strikeouts in a game. You're like, hey, Dad, what do you think about them 12 strikeouts? And I think you were like a junior or senior in high school. And I'm like, well, that's great. But what about them 6 walks and 3 hit batters? And you're like, gosh, Dad. I'm like, well, what do you want me to tell you? The greatest thing in the world? You have nothing to work on? You have no improvements that you can make? Sure, all things are great, but you did walk the bases full and had to strike everybody out to get out of it. So you kind of put yourself in that miss, right? So more about accountability and whatever, but getting to the business stuff, if I have to, I guess it's I'm the same person here as I am at work.
Me too.
There's not two different people. I had a manager, my last manager, my really good manager. I was challenged by him. He made me a better manager. He helped me understand that you have to think like a manager and you never take that hat off. Which means he had a phrase, Gary Johnson was his name, and he's since passed right about COVID and stuff. He retired and moved on, and just a fantastic business person as far as understanding business at the executive level, and then understanding, what a team took to put together. But, he always had a phrase, and he had several phrases, but one was you're telling me something without telling me something. And so that's a manager's way of thinking of things when you look at it. And he's always thinking strategic, not just tactical, not just day-to-day. But he was always thinking that way. And I'd even asked him, I go, you never take your manager hat off. He goes, never. And I don't know how to any longer. However, he was a different person away from work than he was at work. He had 2 lives, not like really 2 lives, but his way he was trained and the way he taught how to be where he was at and get where he was at was work, home and away from work was home and away from work. And you never intermingled it. Like you didn't go play golf with people that you worked with. You didn't do these events. And anytime they were together, it was an uncomfortable situation for him. He was physically uncomfortable because you're kind of laughing it up, having a good time, having some drinks after work, but then it's not really work. You know what I mean? And I'm not that way. I'm the same way. So to me, it's super easy because I can just be me. And I joke it up. I don't take things real serious. I have a very twisted and weird, I won't say twisted, but it's just quirky and weird. I find humor in a lot of things that most people don't. Ask your mother. Your mom constantly just rolls her eyes at me and she goes, "What are you laughing at?" I go, "I thought that was kind of funny."
You're goofy as hell, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know I'm super serious right now, but I have a lot of fun in our team meetings, and a lot of times, I have daily team meetings. We have a MDI meeting, which is a managing for daily improvement, where you have a bunch of metrics that we go through, and we try to solve problems on why things are what they are. It helps us stay on track and hit our target. And we have other people that come in. Well, I laugh it up. Like today's Wednesday, it's hump day. So it's like those types of things are you break it up. People are more willing to engage when it's not this strict, rigid, stiff. Work is work, and it doesn't have to be, it's not all goofing off and play all the time. There's, the seriousness to it, but it doesn't have to be the only thing that it is. And so for me and my style, that's kind of my leadership thing too. It's like from a leadership perspective, it's like you have to understand how your people work and then be objective about your own who you are. Like if something goes wrong, you as an owner, CEO of Abracadabra, if something goes wrong or fails, the first thing you should be doing is looking at yourself. Like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? And what do I need to do to help facilitate a fix so we get us back on track? The sooner you do that, the faster you go forward. Because if you want to point blame and everything, and again, people need to be accountable for their own actions. If they make a mistake, fine, that's all good. Learn from the mistake. Realize it's not, to be honest, your business is not life or death, except for the pests, right?
Yeah.
But it's not life and death, right? It's important. You have customers to satisfy, and you have to keep them, and all of them are different. But bottom line is, it's not brain surgery. It's not something that's really, really impactful to your, immediate life and death situation, right? So it's like understanding that's like, okay, look, let's solve this problem. It might take 15 minutes, it might take a half an hour, it might take 2 days, it might take a week. But let's learn from what we did, not do it again, and get better.
So how do you facilitate that?
That's a conversation. We just go, okay, here's what happened. All right, what happened here? And then get folks to feel free to have that conversation without, you're always wrong. You don't want a boss that, takes credit for everything and then shoots you down when you have an idea or do those things. You want to be the type of person that just sits back and says, okay, team, you lead the conversation. How do we fix this? And then make sure they stay on your job is basically to sit back and just kind of like, all right, keep it in play. Let's not get down this rabbit trail. Let's stay here and stay focused. Because what happens is when you peel back the onion, you get a bunch of other layers of other stuff that are important, but it's not specific to the task at hand, So that's how I do a bunch of different things. And again, when you have a really good team, my team is they're all different. They're all amazing at their jobs and what they do. Again, like I say, they make my job super easy. I love them. They're like my family. And there's no but behind that. They're very important to me and my work life. Makes work real easy. You don't get up in the morning and go, oh, great, another day. None of that. And I don't want people to come to work with that attitude, because if that's the case, then you won't have them real long. And it's not up to me to get it in there, but it's me to help. It's my responsibility to make sure that work environment is not threatening. It's not, it's not only one-sided. My opinions and stuff are my opinions, but I don't necessarily throw my Christianity at people, right? I don't throw my political views at people.
Certain things are
those are mine, right? And if you're aligned with that, wonderful, great. But it's not a requirement to be on the team. You don't have to have that to be on the team. So
what type of conversations do you have amongst your team when it's not around targets? Are you having conversations around building?
I have conversations around my goals this year from my team specifically are related to helping them become more strategic in thinking. I want them to be. I'm using this term frequently now. I just came up with it. It's a professional aggressiveness, meaning in a role where you have a lot of contributing factors to what you do, and that's what my team does. We have product managers, we have engineering, we have leadership, we have customer service, all these other people that are contributing to the information that it takes for the team to do what they have to do. It's easy to just be okay, I have a task, get it done. I have a task, I get it done, and just blindly go through and just do it because you want to just move on to the next thing. And I wanted to get to the more of the why we're doing what we do. Why does a product manager want us to buy a bunch of gizmos? Like what's the quantity? What's the problem we're trying to solve? What happens down the road if the plan doesn't come to action? What is the plan? Is there a plan? Give us a compelling argument to why we have to do what we have to do, and understanding all the the river when it rolls downstream, it's got a bunch of little things that it doesn't just stop there. Somebody else has to deal with it. So
yeah, because you guys are humongous, like. Well, it's hard for me to even think about how big your business is.
Yeah, I mean, if your business was this big, it's different. It will be, but it's a different mentality. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of moving parts, and that that also brings in the complexity, right? Because all these personalities, all these different goals and targets and desires and dreams and whatever come into play. But you have to stay within your lane. I have really good managers that I work with. Plant manager, I got. The operations leader, I've got my boss and others that I work with that, are really good at being team oriented within our own level. But you have to let people do their role, right? And my goal is to help my team to get to be more leading and less following. This is what we're going to do. If you have something else you want to do, or you have a compelling argument that we shouldn't do it this way, or shouldn't we? If we're going to put a forecast in a safety stock based on what we know, we can say this is what we're going to do. And then from that point forward, it's up to everybody else to come back and say, no, I think it should be this, and this is why. Instead of, well, just do it because I say so. Yeah, we're not doing that. This is not you're not a little kid where somebody's going to be like a parent, just do it because I say so. It's why are we doing it? What are we trying to solve?
So how to think instead of what to think?
Well, it's more like why are we doing what we're doing?
Understanding the business side of it and all the other
strategically
things.
I mean, I want them to be strategically thinking, and a lot of that is based on becoming really good leaders themselves. And the other part of it is realize that your team, even though they may be coded at the same grade or whatever you call it, they're not all at the same, they're not on the same, like thinking about a stairway, right? They're not all at the same steps in development as everybody, right? You'd like them all to be, because it's a lot easier to manage, because then it says, hey, this is step one, this is step two, or phase 1 and 2. It's different for each one. They all learn differently. They all understand things differently, have different life experiences that get them to where they're at. So they're all different bits to get there. So, understanding all that is the, one of the key aspects of becoming a really good leader. I'm certainly not a really good leader. I'd like to think I'm better than most, but I have a lot of place to go. So
okay, so I think you are a good leader, and I'm going to prove it by this question, because you're in the role that you are. So what happens if your team sucks at their job and doesn't do it well? How does that impact the world?
Sucks at their job, like if we were failing. Well, there's a lot of things to that piece. You'd have to be more segmented in what it does. Well, first of all, I'd like to think that we have a lot of the indicators already out there that prevent us to get to that point.
That's kind of.
I'll say this. It's tough for me to try to put it that way, because we have a group of people that are, like I say, they're very good at what they do, and we have a lot of things that we've developed over time to help us avoid chronic issues. The thing that would be the biggest snare that we it's just a challenge on a daily, weekly basis, is the unknown things that just occur, where when you have some abnormal demand that depletes all of your inventory, and that means all the other dealers now are not able to buy this part, so now you've got a shortage. And it was 3 months of demand, and it's all gone, and you don't have stuff coming in for another month, so now you're always playing catch up. You've got back orders, you got customers angry, you've got all kinds of rework because the field people are involved and the customer service is involved, and The boss gets included in all these emails because how come you don't have it? So those are the challenges that you have. Then that affects a lot of things. Units aren't running. So if you think about it, you have catastrophic failures on units that won't run. Belts, coils, compressors, motors, that type of thing. If the unit's not running, that business that owns that unit is losing money every single day because it's not on the road. Hundreds of thousands of dollars a day for a fleet of several thousand of them. You know what I mean?
Transporting food.
They're
mostly,
transporting
right?
food. They're affecting the end customer.
Supply.
So they have to do a bunch of other things to get, because the product still has to flow. So they have to go to somebody else, which means that trucking company or whoever is losing money because they're unable to support their customers that they've promised they would, right? And then it's just a bunch of stuff that happens down the road, and there's so many different managers.
You're calm down, Dad.
Message with
perfect.
Your
thanks.
text.
But really, if Thermo King wasn't there, the aftermarkets, the refrigeration units would break on these transportation things, and like the supply chain for food would be completely effed up for like the whole freaking world. But that's how big the business is.
It's pretty big. It's big in that regard. But it's just like anything. There's wheel fitters out there that have like components that will work. And remember, we're dealing with the U.S. economy, and business is very resourceful on their own. They will find ways to be successful. Mm-hmm. We're a one-stop shop for much of this stuff, but we're not. All of our customers are dealers or independent owners like yourself. So it's like if something was to happen with one of your suppliers that supply a key thing for you as your business, you're not just going to sit back and go, well, I guess I got to cash it in. No, you're going to figure out a way to keep it rolling, right? Mm-hmm. To do something. And you may have to, out of the box thinking, but you'll be able to do it. And so, our business is huge support of it. Obviously, we've got hundreds of thousands of units in the world. So
I think what you're saying is you're not a monopoly, but you're kind of a big deal.
We got a big market.
Yeah, okay.
A big market share.
For the record, not a monopoly.
No.
Although I remember playing a lot of Monopoly growing up.
Yeah, you like playing as long as you won.
Yeah, it's true. So I don't hear the story of I worked at this place for 31 and a half years and worked my way up from if I didn't show up to an interview. Like you said your main qualification on your resume was that you lived too close. Like that was wild to me. I didn't know that was the intro.
Yeah, actually it was interesting. It was interesting enough that I'll even step back. Well, there's even more to it. So I'll step back. And I was driving by the company because we used to live over there. I was driving by the company, and I thought it in my head. I just thought, that'd be a really neat place to work because it's right there.
It's huge.
Right? And so it was right there, pull in the thing, and that Wednesday the ad was in the paper, and I happened to find it and send it. I found out later after talking to my manager, one of the greatest managers I've ever had, just really helped me understand people. Because he was amazing. John Von Eschen's his name, by the way. He's still alive, lives out in Lake Washington, out west of here. So anyway, love him. And I only had the pleasure of working with him for a very short period of time, but learned so much. Anyway, he told me that they had hired somebody, two different people twice for that role that I got. And both times the person either didn't show up or took the job and then backed out at the last minute. And they've been trying to hire somebody in this role for several weeks. So to me, that job was for me. And that was my job. Mm-hmm. I had not gotten to the point where it was a desire of my heart. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So and then that's when I walked to the door and did the whole deal. And even though I didn't have an official offer, I knew it was my job after leaving. So, that's bottom line, kind of like, things happen for a reason, good or bad, typically.
But your consistency with
the company?
Yeah,
Well, you guys had a lot to do with that. Philip, your brother, asked me that one time. It was a few weeks back. Dad, why didn't you stuck with the company for so long? Why'd you stay with them for so long? I go, well, I had 6 kids to feed, and a wife to take care of, and there was commitments. It's like if I got married at 22 years old, started having children right away. I was 23 with my first. Now think about it. In today's world, kids that are 22 and 20, they're not getting married. Majority of them are, depending on where you're at, right? So it's like, then start having children right away at 23, and then another one right again at 25, and then at 27, and 29. By 29, I had 4 children, right? Wow. If you're single, if I was single, and I told them, hey, listen, if I was single, it was just me, yeah, I probably would have tried a bunch of different things. There's no risk. It's just me. And it wasn't just me. At that point, when I said I do and we started having kids, it wasn't about me anymore. It had nothing to do with me and my career and all that other business. It was always about how do I take care of my family, with a salary and benefits and insurance and all the things that with it. It's like, and to be fair, the company's taking care of me. And I think I've done a pretty good job of giving back and helping the growth of it. So that's how you stay with a company for so long.
But your process in moving up, like you had to, like the skill set's not the same. So you to go through those 7 or 8 different roles that you had to develop new skill sets along the path.
Certainly,
right?
Certainly. Well, I mean, you have to have the attitude. I've always had the attitude of the more I learn of my current role adds value to who I am for the company. If I know a whole bunch of different things, and I want to go learn all those things, there's a greater value there, and then that opens up other doors. I wasn't literally seeking things out. It was like these are all just opportunities that came my way, and you take care of the opportunities and take advantage of it, when you go. So, I wanted to get out of the warehouse per se, so I took a customer service role, a non-leadership role. But I will say that it wasn't long before I was moved into the lead role. That became available, and it was just like a slam dunk type deal. So then management is a different level. So from being a lead to a manager is a different level in the corporate stance. So you have to be ready for those. From a maturity standpoint, you just have to be ready. Today's younger kids, when they come out, they all want the salaries that their parents are making as soon as they walk out the door. They haven't paid any dues, haven't learned anything. They all have a lot of gifts and a lot of talents and a lot of things, but it's like you're not ready. We have people that move around real quickly. They go from job to job to job. And they don't really learn anything. It's 18 months. It's time to move to another job. And I don't fault them for that. I think that's fine, whatever. But I always look at it like, well, what do you know? I don't get it. I know stuff on how the business works from inside and out and up and down. And I ask the questions and, well, how does that work?
You also have a laser focus. You're really good at not letting things get put on your plate or become your problem.
Well, that's because I've got the phrase that my first manager always used to tell, and this is good for everybody. I'll talk to the camera. It's good for everybody. Good. It's good for everybody. If you have a heart, because I have a gal that works for me that is such a great pleaser. She's a people pleaser, and there's a lot of people out there that are people pleasers, right?
Got a surprise for you, Pop.
You got a surprise? Hey, my guys are here.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey,
how you doing?
Hey, guys. Look who came in.
Yeah, I didn't tell you.
Oh, anyway, so are we at a pause right now?
So, what's up, everybody? We're here on part 2 with 2 additional Eickmans. So there's 4 Eickmans for the record, and any of the quirks that we 3 have are greatly due to this guy right here. So you guys missed some good conversations. I heard parts of stories I hadn't heard, which is cool. We'll talk about that later. But Phil and Andy, why don't you guys tell everybody who you are and why I let you show up here today?
Go ahead, dude. Phil. I'm younger than Matt, I guess. Cooler than him, though. I don't know. I really don't know why he let me show up.
What's your role?
What's your role?
I'm the COO over at Abracadabra. I'm Andy. I'm the oldest of the 3 of us. I run the wildlife department and the outside sales team.
He's the artist formerly known as Fat Andy.
That's factual.
Now what'd you say the other day? Now he's like
he used to be Fat Andy. Now he's like, oh, aren't you Philip?
So
my life the last year.
But these 2 guys right here, really, they're part of why I love what I do so much at Abracadabra. I get to do it with 2 of my favorite humans, and we talk about things that we learn from you almost on a daily basis. And I think together as a trifecta or Eickfecta, as our group text is, I think we're realizing together, how smart you actually are and how many things that we
Isn't
miss.
that surprising? Yeah.
And
That's because you're all growing up, right? I mean, like I told that before, I said, you really don't realize you don't know anything until you hit a certain age. You're now 32, so you've already crested that. I always think that magic number is 30, 31, where you realize that you don't know anything, right?
So true.
You go to that point where, I know everything. Everybody else is so dumb. Like, Dad, how do you, like, I always say that, most parents out there, their kids think that you've hung the moon by the time they're 12, but when they hit 13, they're amazed that you can even feed yourself.
yeah,
Right. You're able to sit up and he's not slobbering over him. That's amazing, right? But until you get to that 30, 31 age group, you realize, oh my gosh. We talked about this earlier. It's like, I definitely don't know anything. I know nothing. There's a cool thing. I should probably send it to you. I've gotten it. It talks about dads, and it goes through a progression of a kid from different ages and what that each age reflects and all that business. And then, to when you're my age and thinking of your father, who of course, as Dad's gone. So Grandpa's gone. So anyway, so it's like, I should send that to you. I have it. It's probably really good to have it. It becomes more relevant the older you get. You know what I mean? So then I'll send it to you so you have it. It's
Well, now we're gonna have to send it to everybody that's listening to this, Dad. So
it's fine. It's not.
we
It's
need to
by an unknown. It's by an unknown
make
author,
sure
and I
you
don't
CC
have
the
it.
team on it.
Well,
So we got to get back to the cliffhanger because it was good.
What were we talking about again?
We were talking about laser focus, and you got somebody on your team.
Oh, okay. This is pretty good. So this is something I learned from my first manager at Thermo King when he hired me, because I was a person that was, I was a go-getter. I was 20. I was 93, so that makes me 20.
I was 5, so
Yeah,
We're not talking about you right now.
No, but I got to back it up.
at the time,
Right. So
though,
I was
you goofball.
I was 27, 28, something like that. So it's go-getter, get the thing done, go to A to B, really hustle. And so anytime somebody came into my work area and they needed something done, I would just take ownership of it, right? Which allowed them to be super lazy. And so then, they would want to ship something and they would say, I got to ship this gizmo off to such and such. I'm like, okay, take it. Just jot down wherever you want it to go and I'll take it from here. Right. And there's all kinds of other things behind it that caused me to do a lot of extra work. Well, I have a gal on my team that is a super people pleaser. So she's always taking on stuff. Somebody has a problem with the invoice hold. Somebody has a problem with the pricing thing. Somebody has a problem with the source, the issue. She's always taking it. And she shares her screen with me, and I'm picking on her a little bit, but I love her dearly. Is she'll have, and I'm not lying, she'll have 20 screens open of Excel. She'll have 10 different Explorer sessions open. She'll have all these different things open. I'm like, how do you keep all this focused? And she goes, well, I want this person to, I don't want to think I'm doing this and da-da-da. I said, okay, here's the story. And this is for everybody. When somebody comes into your life, whether it's in today's world, it used to be, we didn't have email or anything like that. It was like they walk into your office. But just picture this person has a monkey on their back. They want to take this monkey and they want to put it on your back. Or anybody's back, as long as it's off their back, right? Mm-hmm. And it may or may not be, it's probably, most of the time it's not in your purview, like things that you're supposed to be responsible for, right? But they don't care. They just don't want it on their back anymore. Mm-hmm. And they want to put it on your back. So what I tell people, when my boss told me, he said, you have to picture that monkey on their back and go, there's no monkey here. No monkey here. Right. And so I've been able to do that. And so then, and again, that's part of that professional aggressiveness that I talked about earlier, where you don't allow people you don't enable them to be lazy and just throw it over the shoulder type of stuff. You hold them accountable for their own stuff. And so basically it boils down to, you think about in your day to day, how many folks come into your life that just say, hey, Phil, hey, Andy, I got this one problem, because you're in leadership, right? Because when you're in leadership, they figure, oh, well, you guys are supposed to be responsible for everything, right? Well, if I have to do everything, then why do I need you? You know what I mean? So it's like you think about that, and it's like, no, your job is to fit. I'm here as a resource to help you sort it out, but I'm not here to do your job. Right. So it's like the no monkey. So that was the thing. And it's funny, but it proves a point, and you'll never forget it. Once you start to put it in action, you'll go, no monkey here. No monkey.
Sure, that's from like in a book.
Might be
Henry Cloud book, I believe.
In what?
Henry Cloud book.
I think you're right.
You don't read no books.
Man, listen to him. I got ears.
So I don't know. I'll be honest.
Pretty sure.
I'll have to take your word for it.
Well, I mean, Dave Ramsey's talked about that.
He's got some,
that exact thing.
like he doesn't let other people's problems become his problems, and that for me as a growing human being, like freaking hard and incredibly frustrating.
It is, because when you have a passion to take ownership, when you have a passion to solve problems, and you have a passion to move on to the next thing, you don't need all these little things to bog the whole process down. So part of a growing leader is that you have to be able to have the trust that your people will be able to manage and handle that. Without you having to be doing it, right? If you're that person that's, keeping the chickens on the line, well, they don't learn anything, right? And so let them fail. It's hard to watch them fail. You guys will learn that soon enough. Now, the hardest part of being a dad of adult children is watching them fail.
I'm good at that part.
When you know they're going down the wrong road, and you may or may not have the means to help them out, to solve that problem for them. It's for everybody. You got to let them fail. I mean, obviously, if it's something catastrophic or it's life-threatening or somebody else's, whatever, but you got to let them fall. You got to let them learn. Otherwise, they'll never learn it. They're never going to be viable people for a business. They're not going to be hireable, right? Because they're constantly going, I don't know anything. I'm calling Dad. He'll do it. I don't know. Well, that's not. You want somebody that can be hireable.
Yeah, so I don't know if you noticed it there, but this is good because I wanted to create the connection. We started that talking about it like within the workplace and building leaders there, but you finished the breath with talking about building leaders.
That's exactly right.
So
it's all connected. What do you think your sisters who are out in Utah, what's the new Gen Z? Is that the one? That age group?
I don't know.
Whatever. It's the one group that you talk to a lot of business owners. They don't want to hire Gen Z because they don't want to work. They want to spend time on the phone with all the social media stuff, right?
You're hiring Gen Zs.
Yeah, you're hiring Gen Zs. But you're not.
Anybody.
But
who wants a job?
They have because they've been trained to work. They're very hireable, and it's a huge desire for other companies to take them on. Why? Because they've learned all of these things through, growing up in this family. A lot of. Didn't have a lot, but we had a lot of work ethic involved in it. So, and then you want to have people that can be, growing, because if they're not growing, you're rotten. You're going to get bad and, stagnant.
So, question for you guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Eickman-isms, right? Or things that
Eickman-isms
that stuck, and we feel like other people in the world should probably know this because we heard it so much growing up, but really it's kind of just like within our
figuring out that some words aren't actually words.
Yeah, that's part of it. So we can go there if you want, but like, what are some of the things that Dad used to tell us that you find yourself thinking about as you're going through your life at Abra?
You put us on the spot.
Damn skippy, bro.
Could have primed us with these questions.
No, freestyle.
Freestyle's king.
I also could have told him you were coming, but that wouldn't have been as cool.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
you can probably put in what Grandpa used to say, because a lot of those things I learned from him.
I mean, there's a lot of overlap there with Grandpa and Pop. So like one of the like sayings that you're very familiar with this because you say it probably more than I do even, but we proceed to take the stick out of the monkey's cage.
It's classic.
That's a classic.
We literally built a year around it at Abracadabra.
Yeah.
So what does that mean though for you guys?
So like
I'm glad you picked
That's
up
a
what
great
I was laying
question,
down
Dad.
there, Dad.
yeah. You want me to go or do you want to go?
It might be differently for both of you guys.
It is
could
different.
be.
It's different for everybody. It's also dependent on how you take the question.
Yeah, so I mean, now I think it's like, okay, now we know what the issue is. The sticks in the monkey's cage, that's the problem. So now we have to proceed to take it out. So what's the solution? Think about it. Mm-hmm. So instead of just like jumping headlong into the situation and sticking your hand in there and getting it bit off by the monkey, maybe we come with a plan and have a solid plan and then execute it. That's what it means to me. Like, I don't, what about you, man? Like,
yeah. Well, first off, it's just like, when you first hear it, you're like, what the heck are you talking
It's the
about?
second time a monkey's come up on this. Like, it's never come up ever again. Like, the 2 times in one.
In like
brief
5 minutes.
Okay. So, anyway, keep going.
Well, like, why do you need to get the stick out of the cage?
Yeah. Do you want the stick?
Do you want the stick?
Yeah. Like, what's the reasoning behind it, I guess? So maybe understanding what that stick is. So knowing what the goal that you're trying to obtain is. And then there's a monkey, which is the thing that is going to prevent you from obtaining your goal. So hardships, problems, things along those lines.
In your mind, is the monkey a mean monkey? Or is he like a friendly monkey?
I think it's his stick.
I think it depends on what that stick is.
Stick.
We're taking his stick.
Okay.
I think it depends on that stick, and so it depends on the goal. So maybe it's a crafty monkey one way, or maybe it's an aggressive monkey the other.
You guys are funny because that's never actually been how I've ever looked at that.
Really?
We've never talked about it.
I never looked at it like that because you have to understand. I grew up. Your grandfather when I was a kid. He always had projects as a carpenter. He was always, always
working on something.
He was like, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? Nothing. Great. Bring the kids. Come on up. We're going to put the wood floor in the house. Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, nothing. Well, come on up. We're going to re-roof the house. We're going to build the chicken coop. Oh, we're going to work on this. There's always a project going on, right?
Yeah.
So, but my dad, for me, it was always, okay, we take the stick out of the monkey cage. It was like, for him, it was watching him in work. It was always, we're going to move this project to the next level. We're taking it to the next level. And that was like his downshifting to pass somebody or whatever. We're going to take this to the next level. So we're going to get it to the finish line, right? And so it's like that's how I always looked at it, knowing how he always did it.
Did you and Grandpa ever talk about it?
Never. It was always just funny things. Like,
this is weird.
But what does that mean?
I just remember being freaking lost. Like, where's the monkey?
I didn't know. Then it made me think about it. So then I
he would say it, and then he'd just go get shit done.
Well, yeah, he was always like that.
There wasn't time. There wasn't like
there was a task at hand. So maybe it's
don't overthink it. Yeah, you never overthink it with him because Dad was not complex, and he was. You guys knew him when you were little guys, right? So it's like you think about it. He was not a complex individual, right?
No,
he's extremely warm. Probably one of the everybody used to comment about Dad, about your grandpa, about how warm his hugs were. He was such a warm person, right? So he was not complex at the same time. He was simple, and it's like there's a pile of wood. I got to build a coop. Let's do it. So it's like to him, it was this A to B. It's just we're going to move to the next level. He wasn't like, what's the stick mean? Who's the monkey? How to get in there? Why does he want it?
We're definitely
overthinking it, right? But it's okay. But no, it's okay. There's no right way to perceive it. That's why I chuckle when you guys have all these things because that's you're equating it to what you do.
There's nothing behind it.
Well, I didn't say that, but it's just he's just it's just all the things that my dad said that used to come up that used to be.
So that's the way Dad took it.
That's the way I took it, but I don't know how much. I mean, I never asked him. We never got into it. I never stopped and said, okay. What's this mean? Are you talking about? It was never, because I don't know if he could actually equate it to what it really meant and be that deep in his thought, because he was very, he was very intelligent, he could be deep at the time if he wanted to. He was always great at, life lesson stuff for me. Like, early on when we were married to Mom, he'd be like, okay, look, this is for everybody else out there too. Your mother and I went through a lot of challenges, but we went through them together. Okay. Which means it's like you go through them together, which makes you stronger. Right. So those are the types of things that he would relay to me. Right. And spend time with and understand with and whatever. So when you get to know somebody at the core of who they are, you just kind of take those kind of things as going, okay, this is just a little fringe benefit here, a little bit of extra something. Like, where are you going, Andrew? Oh, we're going to Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, yeah.
What's your second thing?
So I don't know if you guys remember Dad saying this, but I remember Dad saying this all the time. Talk's cheap, but it takes money to buy whiskey.
Yeah. Never drank a drop.
Never drank a drop when we were kids, but he'd say that all the time.
But that was from my grandfather. So Grandma's dad
didn't drink any whiskey.
No, he did. He's Irish.
But then he stopped.
No,
he
not
didn't.
Grandpa. We're talking about
Grandpa Mel.
Grandpa Mel.
Grandpa Mel.
I'll just be over here.
Yeah.
Grandpa Mel would always say that.
Stay over there, man.
Grandpa Mel would always say that. Talk is cheap and it takes money to buy whiskey. Yeah. So it's like, that one kind of speaks for itself. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. That just means like you can say whatever the hell you want, but show me. Like
Back it up.
the actions prove the actions are what talks actually. Like, so if you're actually going to do what you say you're going to do, show me. Like, let's do it. And I say that pretty frequently now, actually.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's what I think of. I mean,
Usually
those are
when
like
I'm asking you to pick up a bottle of whiskey. Just kidding. Phil, how about you? Do you got any? I got one.
I mean, you brought one up the other day when we were at dinner over there, just when Dad said, not in a bad way, he was just saying like, did you try your hardest?
Have we talked about that before you guys got
Yeah.
here?
Like, did you, like, you'd go to him with something. If anything, you could have done terrible on it, but he would always ask, did you try your hardest?
Yeah.
It's like that.
I usually crushed it, but I got one wrong, and he would tell me that stuff.
Well, I usually didn't crush it. That's the thing. And he would ask me that, and I would have to be like, no, I didn't try my hardest.
Oof.
And then he would go and be like, why? So then there's layers to
See,
it.
intelligence was never your problem, was application, right? You never just applied yourself to it because it wasn't that you weren't smart. The thing is that in this room are 3 different types of learners, right?
Yeah.
You guys all learn differently, right? You know, we actually were talking about this earlier. You hated doing all the daily stuff. You hated hey, I got to do this assignment, to do this. You look at it and
pointless. I just
and then he'd go take the test and get an A+, but he'd still barely pass the class because he never did his daily work, right? You didn't have to. I told you didn't have to motivate you. You just were. I want to be the first. I want to get the work done before everybody else. I'm going to win. Going to win, which is where you're at right now. You, on the other hand, it was like you procrastinated for so long because you dreaded the whole program, and then when you finally got it done and you were late because you got grace to hand it in, you wouldn't turn it in, and you'd go. Me as a dad, I'm going, oh my God, we agonized over this and yet you didn't turn it in. Well, you've already resigned to the fact that you're going to take an F or whatever. But it wasn't because you you weren't smart enough. You learned through doing
Hands-on
and being
guy.
part of it, not doing the sit in a room and watch the class, and all that stuff. That's why you could sit in a room by the playground and a ball would bounce and you're gone. You were in the playground.
Yeah.
Mentally, you were gone.
It's all about like, if I am engaged in what's being like the topic.
Which is why you can be successful now, because now that you're older, you can take all the things that you've learned and the way if you've learned it, you can apply it. You've always been able to apply. Your learning has always been application. You can take what you learn and boom, you can put it to work.
Yeah.
And that's the definition behind, wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to make knowledge work, right? And so when you're able to do that, then that's where your value comes across all things, not just work, family, relationships, those types of things, and then being able to make sure that no monkeys get added to your thing because your time is not renewable, right?
It's not,
You only have so much time. That was the other lesson I had with my gal was like, look, you need to guard your time. Because you have X amount of time to get all of this stuff done because that's what's required. You don't have any time, and the way to get more creative time is to compress that, which means your processes are better, your efficiencies are better, you're able to do a bunch of different things. But taking on more stuff impacts your creative time, right? Your day is X amount of hours long, right? So you have to be able to protect that time. If you don't protect that time, you're doing a disservice to yourself. And ultimately, you're doing a disservice to the company that you're.
And you also don't mess around when you're so direct that if it's not going in your purview, we head that off right away. We're not
done.
There's no conversation. You're not wishy-washy. It's very decisive. And I'm not sure if that's something you learned growing up or if that's something you've had to practice.
It's something you have to practice. It's like anything. You have to exercise that type of thing. You have to take risks. You have to obviously know your audience, right? You don't just throw it at your boss and go, yeah, I ain't doing that. Yeah, I ain't doing that. So it's that type of thing, right? But you guys all as leaders, you need to let your people know that they can use you as a toolbox. You think of you're a tool in the toolbox for them. Right? If they, especially for my people, and because they get pulled in a bunch of different directions, I'll frequently tell them, look, just tell them you have to check with me, and you can't make the call. You have to check with me, and then we'll get together, we'll learn, and we'll teach, and we'll coach to get to that point, and then it's fine because I don't have any problem telling anybody that we're not doing that, and this is why, right? We're not doing that. again, back to the give me a compelling argument why I need to do it, right? So, but you get to protect your own time.
Yeah.
And yours.
So
Exactly.
one of the things that I think about is like, especially as we're talking here, being be comfortable in your own skin. Do you ever remember him saying that to you guys?
Yeah.
How about you? You probably said it to me more, but I remember that, and like the authenticity we were talking about earlier, where you're the same guy. Like you don't have different
Same
versions.
person at home as I am at work. Yeah.
Like that is something that I think is kind of a superpower nowadays. Like authenticity to yourself, especially in the workplace, is something that people don't do with social media and everything that's out there. People look at things and there's a gap between wherever they are and somebody
It's
else.
all who you're trying to impress. We talked about this earlier when you swung by the house. It was like,
Had to make sure
I'm at
he
a point
wasn't
in my
gonna
life
flake.
right now where I'm more interested in people of quality to be involved in my life than quantity, right? Social media is always about how many likes, how many followers have you got, and you're always looking for greater validation with, I got X amount of whatevers. First, I don't care about any of that stuff, so you'll not
You
find
should
me on
like
any
and
social
follow,
media.
though.
So like and follow this podcast, right? Exactly. But point being is that from a validation from myself, I don't care. And people tell me, people either really, really like me or they hate me. And I'm okay, right? I don't, there's really not a lot of in between. It's like, you don't like me. I'm like, okay, well, take a number, get in line. That line form's way back over there. And I don't even care. So it's like, I'm okay. I mean, I'm not trying to make enemies, but at the same time, it's like you stick to who you are. You don't waver from that. You do what's right all the time. And you don't have to worry about it. You're genuine, you're real to yourself, you're honest, those types of things. That's why when you think about who your core friends are, do they add value to your life, or are they like leeches where they're just pulling from you all the time, right? So it's not quantity, it's quality. If you can get a bunch of really quality people, you got something.
I mean, that's definitely something that I've found 36. So as I've aged, my friend group has shrank.
Say matured.
So's your waistline.
Considerably. Like, so my tight, like my closest friends are these two guys.
Right.
And then like outside of that, I have like 3 friends, and those like people that I talk to regularly. I do have acquaintances
Allie,
and stuff like that.
Of course, Allie.
She's my wife, so she's my best friend.
Okay.
But like,
Good cover.
I mean, I have acquaintances and stuff that I'll hang out with on occasion, but there's very few people that I communicate with like weekly or even, every other day or whatever.
And that's not a bad thing, right?
No, and that's part of being like, we're professional adults trying to run a business right now, and that's a focus. So I don't need people that are trying to suck my attention away from what I'm trying to do with my life and where we're going, and my focus on my family and like you guys, as well as, my team at work. Like I care a lot about those guys too. I consider some of them like friends, work friends or whatever, but having people that are like, let's go out this weekend, or come hang out tonight, or let's do this. Every time that stuff like that happens, I end up getting like, it's a distraction.
Let's be honest. You can't shoot me a text and expect me to do a same day event. Not a chance.
Not anymore.
Not with kids.
I mean, I don't even have kids, and I still won't do that.
But you guys
way.
are getting funny if you've seen that neighbor Godsey bit on that. We talked about it. 20 years old, we're going to go, I don't even know where we're going. I'm in. We're going to do
I'll sell my house. I'll sell my car. I'll move across the country.
You're 40, like, I'm just mad that you called me.
Why did you call me? But back to what Andy was saying, it's important to have a group of friends, though, or
that are
people
good friends,
you can,
quality
close,
people.
Quality individuals. Because they can keep you grounded outside of work, outside of family, as well.
And I also think like as you get older, I have less patience for bullshit. So like,
Like you've never really had that, Andy.
that's true. So now it's like really little patience for that, and I just don't put up with like
Drama.
So
I don't like it.
yeah. So
I
let me
just
ask
don't
you
have any
this,
patience for that.
because I'm going to segue. Nailed it, by the way, before I said it. So I think
modest.
I screwed it up by saying that.
Weird.
So modest.
So a lot of people, when I tell them I work with my brothers and we have success, they're just flabbergasted.
I get that response a lot too, actually.
And then the more they learn about it, the conversations we end up having are like trying to learn like how we have success and like why. So like, why do you guys think that we've been able to work through the stuff that we have within the business? Like why that, like, to be honest, like you guys both piss me off like a lot sometimes.
Like Friday. Friday.
That was spicy.
But we've been able to work
dinner.
through all that.
Yeah.
So how?
I mean, when we were young, it was part like our parents didn't allow us to.
So let me ask it a different way.
Not too bad.
Not too often.
We would wrestle.
We did wrestle and
put a few holes in the walls, not
punched him in the face a few times, and
sofas
him too.
and stuff. But our parents didn't allow us to not
figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. They're like, you guys need to figure this out. You can't just be mad at each other. You guys are brothers.
I think part of that came with we lived in a small space for some period of time too. So like we had to figure it out because we had to live with each other in a shared bedroom with one bathroom.
We're so close in age.
Yeah, like we're only 2 years between me and Matt and 2 years between Matt and Phil.
I mean,
so
my brothers are like all three of them best friends.
So what advice would you give to other people that are listening that are working with family members? What have you guys learned through?
Let's work. So, I mean, like, you got to be willing to communicate because, and then figure out where you guys differ, like learning or communicating or decision making. That's where we differ, like, especially you two, because Matt's a shoot from the hip,
ready,
cook
fire,
at 400 degrees kind of guy.
Fire, ready, aim.
That one's good too.
Yeah,
cook on flank.
Phil's very analytical, so he wants to like process the information, make sure it's good, and then make a decision. And then sometimes I fall someplace in between there. Like I wanted to analyze it, but also if it hasn't happened for a day, I'm just going to make the decision and do it. So that's where we butt heads, or where we historically have butted heads the most, especially Matt and I. I mean, there was a period of time there where like didn't want to work with you anymore.
Like, I almost fired you like
4 or 5 times. Yeah. Like for real. And I almost quit like probably the same amount of times. So, and that was
why didn't you?
6+ years because I didn't want to. No, it was before you were working. It was before we were even working. You were even working with us. It was because I knew like I wanted to do this and I didn't want to quit. Like I don't quit.
Rare opportunity.
Yeah. Like especially this is not something that everybody gets to do. And then I knew that this was like a really rare chance for me to be able to work with my brothers, and I wanted to take advantage of that. And I knew that you knew what the hell you were doing, and I just needed to we just needed to figure out how to communicate. So I mean, that was why I didn't quit.
I mean, we made the conscious decision to separate like work and family to the point where like we need to make the right decision for the company. Doesn't really matter if Andy's going to be upset or if Matt's going to be upset or I'm going to be upset. Like what's best for the company.
Yeah.
And then not allowing any of that to trickle into our personal lives. Like
or
the best
minimally,
we can, you know, like minimally.
Yeah.
But
happens sometimes.
When it does, that falls back to us being so close just growing up that, I mean, it happens and then we just kind of...
Well, we just move on.
Talk
usually,
it over. Well, I mean, we don't even, like, I wouldn't say we just move on. Like, it's like we have a discussion, talk through it.
What do you... I know you tried to talk both these guys out of working for me at some point. So why
I wouldn't say that was it.
No, I don't think so.
I think he wanted us to make sure that we were thinking through it and we were making a decision that wasn't based on emotions.
He was like, Matt can pay you. He can make sure.
He was asking like questions that a financial advisor would ask
making
us
sure it's like not just, oh, you're going to go work for your brother, but it's like an actual freaking.
Yeah, I never had concerns that you guys would be able to work together. It was just at the point of where your business was at the time, you know, it was like, okay, well, okay, just FYI, you know, you still have bills to pay. You still have all this responsibility that's there. You move job to job, regardless of where it is, if it meets that need. If it doesn't meet that need, then what's the reason behind it? Is there something else that's there beside that's tangible? That's, you know, that's going to, maybe it's, hey, I got to do this for a period of time before it pays out. or, that type of thing. So that was my guidance to him. It wasn't never, don't do this job. No, that was never ever that one.
Dad never said that ever. That was more extended family kind of stuff.
But what's fascinating is
no one told me that. I didn't really tell.
We've worked together for how long?
I've been with you for 9 years.
So.
9 years I've been working with you.
Almost
longer than you've owned the company. I've been working with you.
Correct.
When did you purchase?
I've been
2017.
I started working with Abracadabra in 2014, purchased in 2017.
I started the year before running mosquito route out of the backseat of my Volvo.
So we've been working together for a long time. And one thing that
April
I know has happened is we've all talked to you at different points about business things. Sometimes it involved us, sometimes it didn't. But almost never was there a conversation that would happen with one of us about the other one where you would bring that conversation in and like try to redirect in any type of way?
It's not my job anymore.
You really just handled it like in a silo as a coach and talked about the scenario.
So that's part of being a parent of adult children, right? Yeah, I'm just here as a resource. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here as a resource and ask questions. Like, how does that look? How does that work?
So you're always good at making us make our own, or not making us make, but allowing us to make our own decisions
as adults.
And live our lives.
Even
my job
when we were
anymore.
younger, though, like when it came to athletics or acting or whatever we wanted to do, if we didn't want to do anything, that's
all about choices.
And mom and dad both were very good about just like, okay, if you want to play sports, cool. If you don't want to play sports, cool. Like Steven didn't play sports, but dad was at every one of his plays multiple times. Like he supported everything we did, but he didn't make us do anything.
So why do you think we work well together and we've been able to?
Well, you started off by saying that you guys are really good friends, right? So that when you have a good friendship and a good relationship like that, you strive together towards one target and one goal. And then when you do that, you sacrifice a little bit, there's always a reward, right, for it. So it's like, it's just reaping and sowing is what it is, really. So it's like you understand that when you have friends, then you can get things done. So when you work together, and I think what you've done a really good job of is separating. You're number 2 in line, he's number 1 in line, you're number 3 in line, but you're the boss.
Yeah.
Right. So being able to navigate through all that. So
Sweet.
Is important.
Rob's calling me.
He'll be fine. Leadership 101.
His first day in the field.
He'll be fine.
Okay. Right.
But so it's like, for Andy specifically, because Andy was hard-headed, as a little guy, was always hard-headed, right? And to be able to be, you as his boss, as a younger brother, again, 9 years ago, you were 25, 27?
Well, I'm 36 now, yeah. So 27.
So it's like you hadn't reached that age where you don't know nothing yet, right? So there's that guideline, you're in your 20s, right? So, of course, there's going to be a lot of squabbling and scrapping and a lot of unknowns within it and so forth. So
yeah, and plus, working for your younger brother is a lift.
Different, yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of people work for their younger sibling. I don't know anybody else that works for a younger sibling.
Which is part of what makes it so unique.
Yeah. And it was, for sure.
So this went fast. I'm going to make you do this again, Dad.
Great.
Can't wait.
I'm the captain now. So
You're not the captain of my time.
Before we no monkey.
No monkey.
Right.
So before we wrap up, thanks again for joining us, guys. I love you guys.
I love you too, man.
I know I tell you that like every day, but I do. So one thing we ask every guest that comes on here is what does hustle mean to you?
Hustle?
In terms, particularly in terms of business, but I'll let you go wherever you want.
I don't know, hustle so much. It's like, it's such a different thing within entrepreneurs is they're hustling to continue to grow and get the next deal, get the next business, keep on moving. I don't necessarily look at it like that because my thought pattern isn't necessarily a hustle. It's because it's not like, hustle to the deal or hustle to the whatever. It's an interesting question. Again, because work is work and relationships are what matter to me. So
you're not going to answer my question?
I don't really know if I have an answer for it in what you're hoping for. But
now I'm back. Nobody's ever not answered.
Hustle's a word they used to say, I feel like, all the time.
Well, I'm always, if you want to read
That goes in the back.
I feel like he used to say hustle all the time.
Well, to me, hustle's like, okay, I'll use it this way. I can equate it to like sports, like, playing sports. When you played basketball, right? So, not picking on you a little bit.
No, it's fine. I was chubby then too.
No, and that's not it. He'd hit the deck and something was hurt. He'd writhe around, right? And I would get up and I'd say, look, if you don't have a bone sticking out or you're not unconscious, you better get your butt up off the court and get back in the game because your team needs you. Mm-hmm. So to me, hustle is that. You're putting your maximum effort in for the team and to get to an end target and goal, right? Mm. I didn't care if you lost. It was your effort, because those are the things that you can control, your attitude and your effort, right? You hit a ground ball and you get thrown out at first. Well, did you just, I didn't care about walking it out there, big deal, whatever. And what happens if the throw was bad, or what happens if whatever? Mm-hmm. And then you were fiddle-dicking around and you didn't finish it, So, it's like that's the part, because if you hustle it out, only good things can happen, right? So it's like I kind of look at it like that, per se, from just life in general, right? I mean, you give your maximum effort, right? And that's relationally, right? That's in business. That's everything you do. And, your attention to detail, that's the other thing that's always a big one too. You can hustle with that. If you're not focused on the details, that is going to be a problem. So it's kind of a big scoping hustle thing. To me, it's more like about effort and you do your best.
Yeah.
What about you guys? I know you guys got to get back to work. We have customers to take care of.
Hustle to me, very similar. Just grind it out, work harder than the other guy, to put in more effort, do the extra work, read the extra 30 minutes, go to the gym for the extra 15 minutes, whatever it is. That's what it means to me. Do that little bit extra that you don't want to do, because that 1%, if you do that 1% every day, you're going to be 365% better. So that's how I think.
How about you, Falabio?
Oh man, gonna hit me with that?
It's a good nickname.
I got Fat Andy. You shut up. That's way better.
That one sticks too. We're not going anywhere with that. PHAT.
Yeah. I don't like that either. I like that worse than
how much weight have you lost, Andy?
Well, from my heaviest to my lightest, it was 175 pounds.
So you lost to me.
I lost.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I went from 350 to 175.
I would more than that now, by the way.
Pre-surgery, I was 320, so I was a little lighter when I went into surgery.
See, I'm not making it up, people, but you made a decision. You changed your life.
Yeah, and then I was down to 172-ish was kind of my lightest, and I looked like a skeleton. So I went to the gym, and now I'm
started eating protein.
So I feel like I'm more of a normal size.
All right, back to you, Falabio.
Hustle for me. You're hustling. You're trying to make it happen. Hustle when it comes to athletics is you're putting maximum effort, like you said, into it. You're hustling. You're diving on the floor to get the loose ball. You're running through the ground ball because you never know if there's a bad throw. If you're out hustling, trying to make deals happen, you don't let a no deter you from going to the next one, trying to get it. You know that I need to leave the cave, kill it, drag it home. That's the job. That's hustling.
So for me, as I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about so many times it was as I was running to first base or something like that. And I swear I was doing my hardest, but it was almost like a lesson for me that there's more in there, and find it.
More in the tank.
Anyway, we gotta log off. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you got at least one thing from this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dad. I love you. Appreciate you coming on. I'm Matt Eickman. This is my awesome family. Thanks for joining the Homegrown Hustle. Whatever platform you're on, share it. All your support allows us to continue to grow and inspire the local business community. So thanks again.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Give me one more outro. You seemed a little pissed, so just smile. You just had an hour's worth of fun.
Fuck these guys. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us on the Homegrown Hustle. As always, I'm your host, Matthew Eickman. I'm here with Scott Eickman. He's my dad. Thanks for joining us. Check out our different channels, whatever you're watching on or listening on. Feel free to like and subscribe. We got a ton of new content coming out. So stay tuned. I'm sure there's going to be at least one thing that you can learn and grow from. So thanks again. Until next time, keep hustling.
Do you have nonstop pest or rodent problems? Our Gold package is for you. Get 4 regularly scheduled services a year and coverage for pests and insects. Call now at 763-328-0156 or scan the QR code to learn more.
Thanks again for joining us on Homegrown Hustle. Our local business community thrives because of the brilliant leaders right here in our backyard. And it's been an absolute privilege to provide them with a platform to share their invaluable expertise. Stay tuned for more insight, wisdom, and inspiration from our local business champions. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Together, we'll continue to nurture and expand our homegrown success stories. Matt Eickman signing off until our next insightful episode.